There's a video you've probably seen. A woman mixing green powder in a bowl. No bottles, no gloves, nothing warning you about fumes. Just a plant in her hands, and you thought, that's how I want to do it. That instinct is older than any of us. Long before a shelf of chemicals existed, women colored their hair with what grew in the ground. The plain communities are the ones who never let that instinct go, still reaching for the garden instead of the chemical aisle, still keeping their hair with vinegar and rosemary instead of anything you'd need to read a warning label for. Coloring your hair with plants belongs to that same world. No ammonia, no peroxide, a bowl of green mud and an afternoon. And once you see how it actually works, you're going to want to try it. Picture a bowl of what looks like green mud. That's henna. Dried leaves from a shrub called Lawsonia inermis, ground fine. Women were putting it on their hair in ancient Egypt, the dry heat of North Africa, the Middle East, parts of India, thousands of years back. It traveled with traders. By the late 1800s, European women were ordering it in for that deep reddish shine. For a long stretch, henna was basically the word for hair color in the West. What it's doing on your head is kind of wonderful. Henna carries a pigment molecule called lawsone. Your hair is made of keratin, the same protein in your nails. Lawson is shaped to lock onto keratin and stay. Think of a wet tea bag sitting on a white tablecloth. The stain doesn't rinse off. It's soaked in and settled. That's henna. Not paint sitting on top of the strand, a stain that becomes part of it. That's also why henna does two things at once. It colors and it thickens. Each strand comes out coated, a hair's fraction wider, smoother where the surface was roughed up. The women who used it weren't primitive. They'd found a single plant that colors and conditions in one bowl. We spent a century convincing ourselves we needed a shelf of bottles to do less. And the doing of it is a pleasure nobody warns you about. The powder smells green and grassy, like cut hay. It goes on as a warm, heavy mud. You can feel the weight of it, and you wrap your head and let it sit. When you rinse it out, the hair comes back with a shine that's almost startling because nothing had to be stripped to get there. It was only added. The reason you're standing in front of the mirror thinking about any of this, the silver, isn't what you've been quietly blaming yourself for. Deep in each follicle sits a tiny crew of cells called melanocyte stem cells. Their whole job is to hand fresh pigment to each new hair as it grows. Every growth cycle, they travel a short path inside the follicle, pick up the signal to make color, and deliver it. That's the machine that's been coloring your hair your entire life without you thinking about it once. As the follicle ages, more and more of those cells get stuck. They lodge in a compartment where the make pigment now signal barely reaches, and they just stop showing up for that shift. Fewer painters at the wall. The hair still grows. It grows in without its color. That's a gray strand. Nothing you did. A cell that got stuck. And there's a second thread, and it matters if you're in your 40s or 50s. Estrogen. Estrogen supports the whole scalp, the circulation, the growth cycle, the quality of each strand. Researchers link its decline to lower pigment cell activity too. When estrogen falls through perimenopause and menopause, a lot of women notice the gray arriving in a rush, right alongside hair that suddenly feels finer or drier than the hair they remember. The stem cells stalling is the main engine. The hormone drop is the accelerant that lines up exactly with the years you're living through. Read that back. The timing isn't a coincidence, and it isn't a failure of self-care. It's your endocrine system doing precisely what it does at this stage of a woman's life. Naming it is the whole point. You didn't let this happen. Your body scheduled it. Plant color, then. What it genuinely gives you, and the one thing it can't. It deposits color. It never lifts it. No plant bleaches, not henna, not indigo, none of them. They can't take you lighter, because none of them remove the pigment that's already there. They lay new tone over your natural base, and your base shows through, like light through stained glass. Darker, richer, warmer, yes. Blonder, no. Any video promising a plant that lightens dark hair is selling you something that doesn't exist. I'd rather you hear that from me now than in your bathroom at 11 at night. I learned the patience part the hard way. The first time I used henna, I treated it like box dye. Slapped it on, gave it 20 minutes, rinsed. Barely anything took. Henna isn't a fast chemical reaction. The leaf has to release its dye first, sitting in the bowl a few hours, and then it needs real time on your head, a couple of hours, wrapped and warm, to actually bind. I rushed a plant that had waited thousands of years to work. Give it the afternoon, put on a movie. It rewards patience, and it punishes a hurry. 3 plants do almost all of it. Henna on its own gives you red, copper, auburn, a warm reddish brown, depending on where your hair starts. If red is what you want, that's the entire recipe. Indigo is the second plant, from Indigofera tinctoria, and indigo is how you reach brown and black. On its own, it goes an odd blue, so it's never a solo act. It needs the henna underneath to grab onto. The reliable way to cover gray is 2 steps. Henna first, rinse, then indigo over the top. The henna lays down a warm base. The indigo settles into brown or near black on top of it. More indigo, darker result. And if you don't want color at all, if you've got silver or light hair that you love, and you only want it glossier and stronger, there's cassia. Cassia looks like henna, same green powder, same family, but it carries almost no dye. It conditions, it brings shine and body and leaves your color where it is. On white or silver hair, it can lend the faintest warm gold, nothing more. Marketing sometimes dresses cassia up as a color treatment. It isn't. It's a shine treatment. On gray hair, that's often exactly the thing. One small trick the old recipes knew. A little amla powder stirred into the henna cools the red toward a truer brown and helps the whole thing grip. It's the difference between an orange you didn't want and the brown you actually pictured. About that toxin-free promise. The scary headline, that box dye gives you cancer, isn't where the good evidence lands. The largest study we have followed more than 100,000 women for decades and didn't find that personal hair dye use raises the risk of most cancers. The people carrying a measurable occupational risk are hairdressers, handling the stuff all day, every day for years. The honest reason to reach for plants isn't fear. It's your scalp and your skin. The workhorse chemical in most permanent dye, PPD, is one of the most common contact allergens there is, a genuine sensitizer. You can be fine with it for years, and then one day you're not. Once you're sensitized, you stay sensitized. Plant color skips that molecule entirely. It skips the ammonia and the peroxide that leave a scalp stinging too. For a woman whose skin has already grown a little more reactive with age, and skin does as estrogen falls, that gentleness isn't a small thing. None of which means the woman happily coloring her grays from a box every month is doing anything wrong. She isn't. Both roads exist. This one just asks less of your skin. and it happens to leave your hair thicker than it found it. Always patch test first. Even a plant can find the one person it disagrees with. This is the same wisdom the plain communities never let go of. A rinse of diluted vinegar to bring the shine back. Lemon, rosemary steeped like a tea. Long hair brushed slow and kept simple. Those rinses really do smooth the surface and catch the light. Plant care that works. No warning label required. Coloring with plants sits right beside all of it. Same garden, same refusal to hand your hair to something you can't pronounce. Henna and indigo run a few dollars a bag online or at any Indian grocery. The amla, the vinegar, the lemon, those are already in your kitchen. You've got two beautiful options in front of you, and neither one is a correction of the other. You can let the silver come the way those women do, rinse it bright, and wear it. Or you can mix a bowl of the green mud that queens used and lay copper or deep brown over your grays at your own sink this week. The one thing you don't have to do is treat the gray as something that happened because you slipped.